when you started working in this field, you're literally sketching like Mr. Brady on the Brady Bunch. Like you had the rolled up blueprints, but now you're probably using a lot of AI tools.
Oh, sure. We went from drafting table, T-square, triangles, manual to automated.
AutoCAD.
I read somewhere that if a blueprint had to change at some point, you literally had to go and redo whole sections of it.
Not one section. Every drawing and every consultant, you have the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, everyone has to change. But now it's all automated and it's all computerized. Plus, it makes your firm, a 4-person operation, look a lot larger. We, in fact, have some large projects and people have never been to the office. They see us and they said, oh, we would love to meet some more of your team. And so one team member is in Kansas, one team member is in East Hartford. So it works out very nicely.
Welcome to Mission Control. At Peralta Design, we launch brands. But for now, let's launch right into this episode.
3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
As I like to call you, my brother, you are the visionary and managing principal, as well as a licensed architect with integrated design and construction. And that's a business that you started and run with your brother.
Oh, actually, my brother has his own business, and I'm working with him on a few projects, but integrated design and construction, ID&C, is my brainchild. I started that in 2007 here in New Haven. Okay.
Well, we can't wait to dive into that. Before that, we want to chat a little bit about some of the things that are going on, like this crazy fight that's coming up with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
And it's so interesting to me how things like this, I don't know how this gets booked to begin with. If they just go to Mike Tyson, are you doing anything?
Yeah.
You got anything going on? And for me, I also think that it's that Jake Paul's a really good heel.
Yeah.
I just really love to hate
Everybody
this
wants
guy.
to wants him to get knocked out, and what started out as a joke, he's actually developed and won some fights, and he's like trained. And
it's kind of funny to me how both brothers ended up kind of just being YouTube like chuckleheads.
Right.
And then now his other brother Logan is a huge WWE star.
Yeah.
People weren't sure he was going to pan out, and apparently he's fantastic. And then this guy and him and another YouTube guy, KSI, have the #1 selling hydration beverage, outpacing Gatorade. Wow. That shows you what like
the brand,
brand will do, right? And just the following. You have all these kids who have been following him since, I remember Zoe was super into Logan Paul when she was growing up. And then now they've turned that into, okay, how can we turn that into the next big thing?
Well, I mean, this is like pop culture wars. It's like, the celebrity death matches, but in real life, in a way, because Tyson is 57. Granted, he's in great shape, probably better shape than any of us, but he's still 57.
Right.
It's like he's getting back in the ring. And then these fights are typically hyped up to be like real fights and everything. Like Roy Jones has done a few of these.
Right. Actually, was that who he fought? I think
Mike
Mike Tyson fought Roy Jones a while ago. I want to say it was over the pandemic. And like I remember they did like it was an exhibition match, and they did like
they don't punch each other in the face, and then they wear the big headgear. And,
right.
Big headgear, big gloves, overweight gloves. So it's a lot of comedy with these promotionals.
It is. It's definitely for ratings, and of course now it's another scheme with Netflix now to get. You said they're gonna increase their rates, or
So Netflix is looking at what do they do to get into the next thing, because a lot of the other competing streaming platforms have other revenue sources, right? Like Disney Plus is just one small arm of the empire that Disney has. Hulu being part of that, you look at HBO Max is just one part of Warner Brothers Discovery, but Netflix, this is what they do. You know what I mean? I almost want to say that if they haven't already, there's plans to shutter the DVD thing, which I was surprised was even running for as long as it did. But this is their bread and butter. How do they bring in more of an audience? And the live action exclusives on top of the series and movies becomes that, the next draw.
Yeah.
They did this big release last year with golf and F1 and then
full swing season 2 just started.
Right, exactly. Which is like this kind of
now they're using the whole live versus PGA and
really
the hype. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
the whole trailer is about live and PGA and the merger and all the sound bites of each of these golfers. Rory and all these guys that may not have taken the $1 billion payouts.
So are they miking them up now?
They're all mic'd, and so it's a reality show, very popular. And now they're going to show the Ryder Cup, where all the drama that took place at this past year's Ryder Cup, as we know, like with the hats coming off and Rory shouting at the caddy, and so it's all.
I have to ask, as a fan, do you appreciate that? Because there's definitely this reality show.
I do, because
drama.
it gives you a little bit. It's a one sport where they're supposed to be gentlemen, so they all show restraint. There's very little emotion. So when you watch a show like this, it's kind of like the only chance you get to see what they're really like. How do they really react?
Reality golf, which is always fun. Always fun.
Reality golf.
Apparently, they have a tennis series.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like Netflix found a good format.
And F1 is like on its, what is it, 5th or 6th series?
Season.
Yeah, that's wild.
I just wrapped up the 6th season, which was actually really good.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
It kind of takes the whole season and condenses it down.
Yeah.
It's weird because you know how it ends up, but I guess that didn't stop any of us from going to see Titanic and making that a hit. So, I mean, it's part of it is just not just the destination, but the journey. And that's a really great part. I think they also signed, they also had a huge deal with WWE. So they're going to have, I think, Monday Night Raw now on top of everything else. So Netflix needs to justify the cost increase, but also guarantee a certain amount of viewership and bring in more viewers. So we'll see how this strategy works out.
Right. And I'm trying to recover at this moment that I have to turn further over to see you, because I'm normally talking to you over here, and we're missing Kevin, which threw me off completely with the, normally he plays the Jamaican air horn a few times, when we start. So, but yeah, man, I'm also annoyed with all of the household, the Netflix, where it's like,
every time I log in,
it's like,
hey, do you want to share it?
I'm in my house. Like, this is just another
This is
TV.
my house.
Right.
This is my TV. The one I always use.
TV.
Why do I have to
Log
go
in.
through another thing?
Right. I mean, come on. I mean, so yeah. So Jake Paul, Tyson, we
Oh, and just speaking of streaming shows, period. I don't know if you have heard of the Shogun on Hulu.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I've heard good things. I have not.
Somebody said it's like the Japanese Game of Thrones, and that's pretty.
I
good
need a good series to watch with the missus,
approximation.
because I'm on my own with Resident Alien. She's not into it.
Not feeling it at all.
No. And she's to the point where she rewatched The Lioness, and that was actually an excellent series. Which, speaking of streaming services, there's so many now. It's like you might as well just bundle them up and sell them as cable again, because
We're this close for the all coming back full circle at this point.
Now we've got. She's like, "Isn't this on Amazon?" I'm like, "No, it's Amazon, but it's also Paramount." And she's like, "But I can see it on Amazon." I'm like, "No, it's Paramount Plus. I got it so we could watch this."
Right.
So she's trying to tell her sister, watch Lioness, but then explaining that it's on some other platform. So it's just like, another, they all give you the free trial, so you can
put your credit card in, you get a free month, and you forget. Now you've been like,
and all of a sudden it's like, okay, monthly. Did I really sign up for this?
Oh man!
So they definitely know how to play the game for sure.
Absolutely. But speaking of entertainment and so forth, Gloria Stefan is coming to the area, and shout out to our alpha brother, Dr. Dwayne Smith over at Southern. That's where she will be on April 27th. So that's entertainment. We can't live without it. It's kind of like what we do. It's part of our pop culture. It intertwines with technology and everything like that. And sports is another topic of interest for us. And apparently, MLB is coming out with some cheaper uniforms. Is that?
Oh, absolutely. They're see-through, and so a lot of people are a little hesitant on wearing see-through uniforms on the field. And the material is I hate to say the word, but it's cheap.
Yeah.
It looks cheap, it feels cheap, and players hate it. Some players who are exhibitionists, they love it. They love it. They're having a great time with it, but most players are not.
It just seems so odd to me when you have a sport where they spend the GDP of some nations on a single
Seriously.
player. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
then you cheap out on the uniforms? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense to me.
None. But speaking of materials, we're going to get into construction materials and really the story behind integrated design and construction right after these words.
Guys, if you enjoyed anything on the show today, found anything of value, we would appreciate it if you leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps us grow, helps us promote other businesses, and help us launch your brand.
It says here that you are the visionary and the managing principal and a licensed architect with integrated design and construction. Tell us your story.
Oh, it starts many, many years ago.
Many moons ago.
Many moons ago. Having grown up here in Shelton, Connecticut, and from Bridgeport, born and raised in Bridgeport until the age of 9, then moved to Huntington, Connecticut during the 70s. It was a different place at that point.
What was it like? Because, I mean, the amount of development we've had in the last 20 years, starting to look like Boston Post Road here, on Bridgeport
It's
Ave.
crazy. So I've lived here. Well, I've owned a home here almost 10 years now, and been here a little bit more than that. And it's the whole face of the town.
Doesn't stop developing. But when I was at UB, which was in the late 80s, right, early 90s, people would tell me that Shelton was like just farms. So what was it like in the 70s?
Very rural, very farmland. So as far as our street where we lived, there were 5 homes on it, and they were scattered between a quarter mile to probably a half mile.
Wow.
And so now you look at that same neighborhood and it's developed. So my formidable years were spent in Shelton. I was an athlete, 3 sports, and it was okay for me.
Yeah.
But some of the family members, it was a little challenging because they weren't exposed to certain things that I was. But fast forward, I worked with an architect, and that's my introduction to architecture in Shelton. My father is a masonry contractor, and he was working on some large projects like University of Bridgeport Law School and some of the dorms at UB. And I said, wow, that's pretty neat. So I would ride around with him looking at it, and he would say, you look at the person who's making everyone go to one direction. And it was a white shirt, white hard hat person, and he would point, and you see a group of people going that way. And then he'll point another way, see a group of people going the other way. And I said, Dad, who's that? He said, that's the architect. I said, that's who I'll become. I'm going to become that person. So over the years, just working with a local architect, Val Carlson. I'll give him a shout out. The late Val Carlson. He introduced me to architecture, and I said, wow. That was a good experience. I would come home from college, Howard University, and one of the Bisons, Washington, D.C., and I would come home, and there would be opportunities to work with Val Carlson, and he exposed me to architecture, and I was like, wow.
But you have a special connection to Shelton besides, I mean, we can go down that road of how difficult it was during those years and the transition, the contrast from Bridgeport to someplace like Shelton, but one of our big partners is the Boys and Girls Club here, lower Naugatuck Valley, and you had something to do, maybe a little bit to do with the building.
Oh, not with the building. I actually participated at Orchid Boys Club in Bridgeport, and so Wakeman. I've never done anything with Wakeman. Not
Wakeman, but the Lower Naugatuck Valley Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, okay. So no, we haven't done any design work with them, but we may have been shortlisted on some of their projects as far as being able to do some construction management. We also do construction management. We're union masons and union glazers and caulkers, especially caulking.
I'm talking about in the young Tad Stewart. To introduce some design work for the Boys and Girls Club, or where am I getting that from?
No, I haven't. As an architect, as a designer, I've worked with a company that may have, and they were out of Southport. But me personally, no, I've never worked on the Boys and Girls Club.
Okay, then that's an urban legend then that you designed it.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. I didn't get compensated for that one, so I need to talk to someone. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
So what other projects did you work on I'm talking about like we want to hear your story from the beginning. You're
Progressively.
kind of like skipping to what you're doing now. We'll get there.
Okay.
But we want to hear some of these trials and tribulations, getting into college, getting out of college, coming out, some of the early projects. I was reading your bio. You worked for Turner. So there are probably some things there that you learned that you kind of migrated over. Our listeners want to know that transition, like what made you decide to start your own company? Like some of those things are real pivotal, crucial, critical points in your story that we want to learn about.
Oh, absolutely. So initially going to Howard University, being from Huntington, Connecticut, I had to be exposed to more diversity. Huntington, Connecticut, during that era, it wasn't as diverse as I'd like. And so given the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. and attend Howard University, predominantly HBCU, it was very exciting. Studying architecture was even more so. Washington, D.C. has every style of architecture in the world can be found in Washington, D.C. So after working with my father in masonry and working with other family members doing construction and other aspects of it, I said off to Washington, D.C. to study architecture. And that was a mind-blowing experience because I had no idea there were so many exciting designs in Washington, D.C. So coming back and fast forward to Connecticut, I left Washington after a 6-year stint. Minor in interior design. I came back, started working on some pretty exciting projects here in Connecticut. I worked with a small architectural firm out of Fairfield doing residential, and then my next tenure, I did that for a couple of years. My next tenure was a medium-sized firm working on a small commercial, institutional. And then I went to New York, and I was working in a large firm with a large international presence, working on international projects. And there was a stint also when I moved to Stanford that we were doing medical and R&D facilities, which was like crazy. So we worked on some very large hospitals, having been exposed to construction management because Turner Construction, one of the largest, if not the largest, construction management companies here in the country, was working on this hospital. And I was a project manager, a junior project manager. So they had like levels of expertise that I'd never been exposed to. And I was like, wow. And I said, that's where I need to go. And so I came back to Connecticut and I started with Turner, Connecticut, and New Haven. And I said, gee, they were based in Milford. And one of my first projects was Yale Law. Again, an international firm doing the design.
These are big brands that you're working on, too.
And how do you even, so coming out of college, what is that experience like going from, hey, I'm fresh in the industry? How do you even get your foot in the door? You know what I mean? It sounds like you were able to get from one opportunity to the next. Did they present themselves? Was that the demand was out there, or did you have to go aggressively find those opportunities?
Oh, no. You're shaking a lot of trees. Shaking a lot of trees, making a lot
He's
of...
making it sound easy. That's
it sounds easy, but that's over a period of time. So you're selecting firms, and I try to start midway after that smaller experience and doing residential, designing birdhouses. I said, yeah, I think that's nice. I think there's something else out there. And so once I started progressing in architecture, I enjoyed a more complex project. In fact, my thesis was 1 million+ square feet of mixed-use waterfront development. Wow. And it was actually in downtown Washington, D.C., or U Street corridor, and they ended up doing something very similar. It was a community cultural center, so I've always been community-based. And I started just applying to different larger firms. In between, I was selling furniture. I was flipping burgers, so it was always a nice experience, a nice exposure. But I knew what I wanted to do at 7, 8 years old after having that experience with between my father and this architect in middle school. And he lived not far from us in Carlson and Carlson. He was the architect and his brother was the structural engineer. and out of Shelton. And so Howell Avenue, maybe that's the boys club you're thinking of, because we did work on Howell Avenue. Howell Avenue, there was a boys club at downtown Shelton, and we did some feasibility studies as well as some design work. And that's when I was actually being mentored by this architect.
Okay, then I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
I knew that
There was a boys club.
There we go.
Tad just left me hanging. Like, what are you talking about? I have no knowledge. This isn't a trial.
This isn't a trial. No. I wasn't there. I have no knowledge. I can't recall. But yes, we did work on the Howell Avenue Boys Club in Shelton, downtown Shelton. And I was a young whippersnapper trying to figure this out. And this architect took me by my collar and said, let me show you architecture. And come to find out, he was a very pronounced, well-known architect throughout the valley. He's done major churches. He's done some nice community projects, and very talented.
So when you start at a position like that, are you doing... Do you get to design right out of the gate? Or
no.
Okay.
We'll keep that simple. No, you were doing menial tasks. We used to do blueprinting, and they used to have these vats of ammonium. So you would actually roll a sheet up, a textured sheet, put it in a vat, and then put it in a ammonium soup. So it'll actually develop, and it was 100 degrees. Chemicals, and an attic in Shelton. They had a 3-story building, and in that attic was the print room, what they call the print room. And I was doing that, and every once in a while he'd give you a chance to lay out a driveway or design a facade of a building or even a pew of a church. But you were menial. But he took a liking to me and said, okay, let me show you how this works.
So, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. You've got great dad, so great family. You know, like they moved you out of the hood, put you in the farms, but then they sent you to an HBCU. So that kind of balances, makes you more well-rounded, right? And you were an athlete at Shelton High?
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes.
So you were an athlete. Learning all those things about work ethic and doing your best and training. And then you had all these mentors in your life as well. And you got to work on some major brands, like working at Turner on Yale Law. I mean, you can't get any bigger.
I feel like I remember, and this could be, I'm going back to when we first met and we were first working on the website, one of our first web clients. I remember Bayer being involved.
Oh,
somehow?
yes. That was.
He's just being super modest.
Right. There's all these major brands involved. So, I mean, that's huge. The train station that comes to mind. I'm trying to remember
Bayer corporate headquarters in West Haven. They shipped me off. I was with another firm, this R&D firm, and they did hospitals, they did research and development, they did university work. And they shipped me off to Madison, Wisconsin between November and February to design a hospital in New York. Whereas I worked on the corporate headquarters of Bayer Pharmaceuticals in West Haven from Madison, Wisconsin, between November and February. So I was between New York and West Haven. And that was one of the lapel pins I wear very proudly.
What an accomplishment. That's incredible.
So I've always been exposed to complex projects, and that's what I enjoy. And so starting now, fast forward to my world, I spent a number of years, 8 years approximately, at Turner, working on very high-profile projects. And I said, gee, Turner taught me how to count. Because prior to that, I was leaving a lot there. I had no knowledge of what I was doing other than working in as a team member, and that athletic prowess also gave me that team experience. So I love working with teams. I'm in many organizations. I'm not a standalone, and I've always had mentors. And so once Turner gave me an idea of how to count in the construction industry, I said, I've made you enough. Let's see if I could do this.
And by count, for the uninitiated, you're talking about, like, if I buy materials at this cost and build the building for this, and profit loss, materials versus time. Like you're basically through Turner. It sounds to me like you were learning more about the business of construction.
Absolutely. I was learning how to make money at it.
Exactly.
Up until then, I was giving a lot away.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, yes, I'll do this, and I kept doing it. You ask, I would do, because I'm thinking that's business. And architectural school, that's one of the shortcomings of practicing architecture. The business prowess that you'll need to stay successful. And so counting from Turner was totally different. Yeah. Up until that point, I was seeing aspects of professional practice, i.e. making money at it. I was looking at some of the shortcomings, some of the shortfalls of it. So I never really experienced, whereas Turner Construction actually showed me how to make money at what I was thinking I was doing in the construction industry.
And I see we're also alumni of the Tuck Executive Program, so that I'm sure you learned even more of the business aspect of construction and design.
Absolutely. Professional practice at Tuck was a variety of different businesses coming together, but one commonality was how to stay in business by making money and making contacts and networking and being the individual you claim to be. Yeah. You claim to be a business owner, but yet you have no idea your how to read financial statements and how to generate them. So Tuck School of Business, that was an excellent experience for me as well. Yeah,
shout out to them. Now, a lot of folks kind of continue with their business on the side, and they keep a steady paycheck from like their full time, and so their business ends up being a side gig for years. In your case, what was the spark, right? Because it's clear that you knew you had a gift from an early age, but now you're working in the industry. What was that awakening? What was that moment where you said, I'm going to go start my own thing?
Well, it was on a rooftop of International Paper in Stamford, Connecticut, and we had our final cleaning. We've just completed a $20 million project, and I was on a rooftop with this gentleman, Ted Suit. Shout out to Horizon Services. And we were out there freezing. It was winter when winter was winter in Connecticut. And we're out there, and I'm looking at this, and he said, take a chance. Because we had already had a few conversations on other projects. And I said, I'm getting tired of this. And he said, take a chance. And my last project was a school in Darien, and that was right after this project. And I said, I'm done. I'm done. Thank you very much.
I'm done working for the man.
I said, I'm done. I've learned what I'm here to learn. Yeah. I wanted to go internationally. I wanted to work in Dubai and do some international work, and I wasn't going anywhere with this company. Mm-hmm. And so I said, okay. And he said, take a chance. Yeah. And to this day, he's one of my business mentors.
Yeah, shout out to Ted. I know him well. We were some of the early founders of Opus, the organization. Yes. Ron Everett and Ed Rodriguez, Penmar, a few other good solid dudes formed that, and Ted was one of them. So now, what is the first step for you? Because you're leaving the safety net, quote unquote, of a job.
Security.
Right? The security of a job. A lot of people that aren't entrepreneurial minded probably thought you were crazy at the time.
Very much so. Very much so. And I had just gotten married also. So it's like,
oh, wow.
Just bought a house, just got married. And I was like, okay, love, you're with me? She said, absolutely. And I said, I'm done. I'm done. So that Wednesday I went in, and I'm not feeling it. I'm looking around. I'm saying, gee. And I'm looking at the walls, and the walls were like, leave. And I said, no, I'm
the walls of the office?
The walls of the trailer, because we weren't in the office. We were on the trailer.
You were on the job site.
Job site. I was working on a job site, 39 years old. I'm saying, gee, I need something else. I want something else. Yeah. And then that conversation with Ted Sue came back, and I was like, oh, okay. And I'm walking around looking at this school, and again, in the winter, for some reason, I'm working outside in the winter a lot. And I said, no, this isn't it. that safety net, I had some savings. I had a plan, a retirement plan with them, and I said, okay. And I was doing small little residential by that time as well, little more, and it became more and more prominent. And
you were
I said,
starting to
okay,
build up your portfolio of clients,
residential, but I'm
because
working.
that didn't conflict with the commercial projects you were working on.
Oh no! I would do a bathroom. I would do a garage, something very small. But at one point, I realized I love commercial work, and I'm thinking back my thesis. I'm like, wow, I was developing large projects, or had that dream of doing larger projects. And so that one day, that Wednesday, I said, okay, I think this is it. And I'm driving a small little car. They said, big man, small car, little car. And I'm driving, commuting to Darien from New Haven. And I said, gee. And that's when there was a bridge, I think, on 95 that exploded or burned or something.
Oh, yeah, there was a huge, like a whole, some part of section 95, the whole floor fell off.
Yeah, it was in Bridgeport.
Yeah.
And it took 4 hours that day. I said, okay, this is it.
Done.
This is it. Stick a fork in it. And that Thursday, I started contacting Connecticut, the State Department, and Secretary of State, DRS, Department of Revenue Services, said, I'm going to start a business. And it was out of the home doing garages, baths. Every once in a while, I do a restaurant. And then I said, okay, let's go the way I want to go, which was commercial. And residential, 99.8% of my work today is commercial. I do residential for clients of mine or people that have worked with me previously.
Yeah, I know right before we decided to sell our home, we were talking about putting in some stairs, and I mean that would have been fun. Like we were gonna open up the main floor of our old home, and because Nancy was like, I couldn't convince her to sell. She wanted to like fix that house up, but the schematic was going to be pretty complicated. what we were trying to do anyway, we were trying to do floating stairs and all of this.
Yeah.
But that's wild. And how do you? I mean, you're using software, and we can talk a little bit of how AI. Because I mean, but when you started working in this field, you're literally sketching like Mr. Brady on the Brady Bunch. Like you had the rolled up blueprints, but now you're probably using a lot of AI tools.
Oh, sure. We went from drafting table, T-square triangles, all manual, to automated.
AutoCAD.
I read somewhere that if a blueprint had to change at some point, you literally had to go and redo whole sections of it.
Not one section. Every drawing and every consultant, you have the mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Everyone has to change. Wow. So it was very
layers,
cumbersome.
right? Like almost tracing paper kind of layers.
Sure. Yeah. So tracing paper, napkin sketches. I still do napkin sketches and just getting some feasibility, some thoughts out. But now it's all automated. It's digital. We're using Revit, AutoCAD products. Not as much AutoCAD, so we're doing parametric drafting now, and it's all computerized. It's on computers, and you could design. Plus, it makes your firm, a 4-person operation we have, makes it look a lot larger. We, in fact, have some large projects, and people have never been to the office. They see us, and they see what we are producing, and they said, oh, we would love to meet some more of your team. And so one team member is in Kansas, one team member is in East Hartford. So it works out very nicely.
So you're embracing technology and enhancing, you're able to do more. You're scaling through technology.
And it's amazing how I feel like the stories are similar in that where technology kind of allows you to punch above your weight. And it's incredible to be able to then go toe to toe with, putting in some bids on projects that you might not have imagined it, some years back. And now anything's possible.
Absolutely. We're technocrats, so we're always cutting edge. We can do seminars, we do presentations. We're technocrats. We love technology. We've embraced it. AI is not taking our jobs away. AI is enhancing our position. So that in itself, in augmented reality, AR, this is what the world is coming to, and we're embracing it. So,
Yeah. So tell us about some of the interesting projects you're working on now.
Oh, interesting projects. Well, always working on something. Something's always going on. We have a very large indoor amusement facility in Ansonia. My client out of New York was a former detective, and he retired, and he and a group came together, and they said, "Oh, we could do security training, we could do police training, and then we could also open it up to the public." And so we have a sizable project in Ansonia, still in the design development stages, but it'll consist of 2 swimming pools. We have 4 pickleball courts, squash courts, and then we have these battlefields, which are paintball simulators, and they're actual fields, 4 stories of that.
Wow.
So you have a progressive.
Sold. When can I? When can I go?
We're still working on it. So kitchen and dining facilities, as well as a wellness center. So we're working in these different levels. So you have progressive paintball. So you work from your ground level up to your 4th floor. And then we have rooftop gardens.
It's like a real life video game. It sounds like
it's kind of amazing.
Okay.
I was gonna liken it. So one of the interesting things is that we see all these building games come out now, or games that have building elements, right? So my daughter, my youngest, loves to just build her house or her bases in in the Minecraft or the Fortnite or the Pal Worlds of that are out there now. And I wonder if that is creating, or even like Legos or Lincoln Logs or any of those things create, some of a passion in there. But it's amazing to be able to take something from, and one of the favorite things I love about my job is taking a vision and making it a reality. So there's supposed to be something satisfying about when that's done and being able to visit it and go to the top floor and all of those things.
Absolutely. So my client actually was the visionary. He had spent some time in Florida, I think, and they had something somewhat similar, but not close to what he came up with, what we designed for him. And that's one of our larger projects. And then we have a project right here in Bridgeport, downtown Bridgeport. It's a center for it's a center, and it's a 4-story center that will job training and offer different social services for previously institutionalized individuals. So it's right downtown.
Is it part of the workplace at all? Is it?
It's. I don't know if it will be part of it, but it has its own. It has its own identity and its own life, in fact. And so it's right downtown Bridgeport.
Okay.
And you'll hear about it.
New construction.
No, it's existing. So it's a historic district, and so now that's another challenge of bringing historic elements back to life, basically.
Right.
And it was an old retail, and prior to that, it was a large department store downtown Bridgeport, and so they're developing it into this social service program on Main Street.
Nice.
So that's another large one, and then we have some smaller ones, office buildings. We did a office suite, not a building per se. And we've done a medical suite in Trumbull, and some smaller corporate fit outs for some clients here.
Okay. And what about on the east side? I thought you were involved in a supermarket or?
Yeah, again, that's my brother.
Okay.
That's Ashlar Construction. And
okay.
I consult with them once in a while. In fact, after this meeting, we'll be consulting over some stakes.
Consulting, a good write-off. How's it like working with your brother?
Oh, that was
great.
great.
Is he younger or older?
He's older. In fact, that's why I went to Washington, D.C.
Okay.
I was following him. So
you guys both got kind of bit by that same bug, it seems like.
Well, my father was in construction.
It's in the blood. It's in the DNA.
Yes, there's some bleeding of construction in us. So his project, he's developing a city block, and it's a city block downtown, in Bridgeport, on the east end of Bridgeport. So it's like 6 blocks from the harbor, Bridgeport Harbor, and he's doing some pretty exciting things.
Is it how's it in relation to like where Bass Pro Shop is and that whole development?
It's probably 4 blocks from there.
Okay.
It's where Newfield Library was.
Yep, I know that.
He did Newfield Library. Now that entire block is his. So
wow.
He's into more developing, and I am. I do some design work with him as far as architecture, but I was doing construction management with him for 3 years, building the library, Newfield Library.
I'm sure our brother Ernie Newton is happy about all those developments.
Yes, and that's a family friend. We've grown up with Ernest Newton and his family.
Yeah.
My brothers, I'm the youngest of 10, and my brothers were closer to Ernie than I am, or my other brother. So very exciting things happening in Bridgeport, Newfield Library, and the East End.
Excellent. What's next for ID&C?
ID&C is just moving forward. We have some nice clients, and just met a group out of, I think they're from India.
Okay.
And Mumbai. And so this group is bringing some very exciting things to this. And I really don't want to talk too much about it. Right now, it's
top secret.
And no, it's not really top secret, but they are kind of funny. They're a little different than Americans. So,
okay. Culturally, you want to? They're not bragging, or they want to wait until this is like done, and then
it's in the same vein as my indoor amusement center.
Okay, gotcha.
Except it's a totally different level. The finishes, indoor amusement is more industrial, whereas this is going to be more high end for a select group of people.
More luxury.
Absolutely.
Okay, so you get to pick some nice materials and finishes.
And going to shows, you're going to trade shows, and you're seeing things that you haven't been exposed to.
Wow.
And you're taking photos, or you're bringing samples back to this group who is familiar with it. They're from Mumbai, and they're from a family in Mumbai that is well
funded.
Well endowed, so I don't have to worry about too many checks coming back on them.
Nice. That's excellent. What do you see trending in the world of construction that we can keep an eye out for?
Faster, stronger, and less time. People are putting buildings up in a quarter of the time that it used to take.
I was going to comment on that. And I also, this is kind of a follow-up question too, not only the speed, but I feel like, and I don't know if this is because it's a particular firm or maybe it's just a particular like style, but like for a plaza, let's say, I'll see a certain facade that seems to be pretty common between a bunch of new plaza constructions that I've seen going up. Is that more a factor of, hey, we already have a solution, so we're going to like kind of pull it off the shelf and reuse that? Or is it more, this is where the industry's at. If you're building a plaza and you want it to look modern, this is the direction you'll go.
So that has a great complexity to what's happening in the design profession. So right now they call it a regenerative design. So now you with AI, and AI is embrace AI. And with AI, you can put parameters in, ask the correct question, design a plaza for an urban setting, and they'll spit out 20 different designs for you. And now you're taking bits and pieces from that and creating your actual physical design. Meanwhile, all this is being 3D generated. So you're seeing walkthroughs, perspectives of potential projects. And that's what I was talking about, the speed. The digital world has really been embraced by the design world. The software we use is actually from the automotive industry when they were designing cars and different aspects of interiors 50, 70 years ago. And so now we're embracing it in the design profession, architectural world. Engineering, I'm meeting with my engineer in 20 minutes, I guess. And he's already given me, and I just got him on board last week or within the last 2 weeks, he's already given me 4 different models of how to put a building, this mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection into the building I was speaking of earlier.
It's amazing. That's amazing. So tell me and our listeners the ideal client for you. And how can they find you? Where can they learn more about ID&C?
Oh, thank you for asking. The ideal client is a person that has a vision. And we're going to interpret your vision into a set of working documents as well as a presentation documents. So a person who wants to see something that isn't the cookie cutter, out of the box saying, ordinary is not ordinary in design, architecture. So if you have an idea and you want to take it to an nth degree, we are definitely the firm. And our firm is based, Integrated Design and Construction is based in New Haven on Grand Avenue. And that's a very ethnic area of New Haven. Doing some work with Yale, having done work with Yale and some of the other universities in that area, it can be very exciting. So best way to reach us is idnc.net. ID, the word and, A-N-D, C as in Charlie.net. And we're always open 24/7 it seems, but our actual work hours are from 8:30 to 5.
Awesome, man. It's really a joy. I mean, I've known you for many years through our fraternal bond, and you always have this passion and joy for what you do. You truly represent someone that's living their purpose and just living the dream, having your own business and helping other people bring their dreams to life.
Oh, Ramon, I remember so many historic moments in our relationship.
Yeah.
And Jorge, I remember meeting you very early on, and now look at you.
Well,
so that's great.
Thanks for being here, and we'd love to have you back when this the Mumbai family project is completed, so then you can tell us all about it.
And you'll know about it prior to me even mentioning it to you, because it's that type of project.
We're looking forward to it. Very exciting. Well, thanks for being on our show.
Thank you, Peralta Design, Mission Control. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Control. Until next time, this is your host, Ramon Peralta, with Peralta Design, and we launch brands.